What's up guys, it's Topsy and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be discussing one of the characters from my custom SpeedDuel set, Duel of Fortune Cup, a custom set based around the Fortune Cup arc from the Yu-Gi-Oh 5'Ds anime. Before we do begin, I did want to go and mention real quick that I did already make an entire video talking about everything you should know before going ahead and watching this series. It's not necessary, but it gives you a lot of context as to what decisions I ended up making for each of the characters for this set. So if you're interested in checking that out, it will be linked in the description below. Also, before we do begin, I did want to go ahead and mention real quick that these videos do take quite a bit of time to go ahead and produce, so I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe to show your support for the channel. But with all that being said, let's dive right in. Okay guys, so we are once again back, and as you can see, we are working on Akiza today. And I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the characters alongside Crow that I was the most nervous about working on, just for the very fact that Black Rose Dragon is an extremely powerful monster, and Black Wings, of course, is a really good archetype. And for that very reason, those two characters were really interesting to go ahead and balance out. Nevertheless, I think that I found a perfect balance for Akiza while still having the deck feel somewhat fun. That being said, I did want to go ahead and mention real quick that there are a few cards that are iconic to Akiza that I did not add to this deck, just for the very fact that I didn't want to have the chance of those cards like popping off in weird loops, those being Black Rose Garden and Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllis. If you guys think those cards are okay in speed duels, let me know, but I feel like they might not be. All that being said, let's go ahead and just dive right in by beginning with her skills. Alright then, so let's go and begin with Akiza's main skill, that being maintaining the Black Garden. And this skill reads, for the rest of this duel, you can't Synchro Summon any monsters except Rose Dragon or Plant type monsters. Once per turn, you can activate one of the following skills, but each can only be activated once per duel. Discard one card, then add one Witch of the Black Rose from your deck to your hand. Place one Plant type monster from your deck to the top of the deck. And finally, if target one Plant type monster you control and either increase or decrease its level by 1. Alright then, so as we can see, this skill does quite a bit for Akiza's strategy. Not only does it help it go ahead and facilitate a lot of the stuff that it wants to do, it also locks it down to only being able to play cards that Akiza would utilize throughout the anime. And I think that's a great way of balancing out this skill. A lot of this skill does revolve around the card Witch of the Black Rose by giving the effect to stack a plant type monster to the top of your deck to allow you to go ahead and facilitate the effect of that monster without destroying itself. Additionally, I do also like the flexibility this skill gives to your deck, being able to modulate your levels to make it a bit easier to summon out your Black Rose Dragon while still staying in theme. For the most part, I think this skill is pretty great for Akiza as a character, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Okay, and as for Akiza's second skill, here we have Garden of Thorns, and it reads, all monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each plant type monster they control. Once per turn, you can activate one of the following skills, but each can only be activated once per duel. Effect number 1, all monsters on the field become plant type until the end of your opponent's turn. Effect number 2, inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent for each plant type monster they control. So as you can see, there is a big theme with this second skill, that is modulating your opponent's monster type, and this is going to be seen quite often with a few of the cards that are implemented in this deck. I think it's a really fun way of going ahead and messing up your opponent without being a bit too oppressive, and there are quite a few cards in Akiza's strategy that allow you to utilize your opponent's plant type monsters in a way that benefit you as a player, and I really like the way this skill ended up coming out. It gives you two very different play styles for Akiza's strategy, and I think that was really cool. But again, give me your thoughts on this. Alright then, so now that we're done with all the skills, let's move on to the tuners. And first one up is Witch of the Black Rose, a monster that we already knew was going to be in this strategy because we have one of the skills directly interact with it. I quite like this card a lot. Not only is it a iconic card from the anime that Akiza uses quite often in her deck, but additionally it's a fairly decently statted tuner monster that has a pretty cool effect where it allows you to draw a card, with the unfortunate downside where it does destroy itself if it's not a monster that you drew. Overall, really cool card, like it a lot, and really iconic from the anime. Next up, we have another icon from the anime with Twilight Rose Knight. This card is pretty great, and it's probably going to be one of your better tuners in the strategy because of the fact that on normal summon, it does allow you to special summon a level 4 lower plant type monster from your hand, allowing you to have a fairly easy access to some synchro plays. I do like the fact that it does restrict you to only summoning out a plant type monster, making it a lot more fair in the way that it works. Pretty great card, gonna be really useful whenever you synchro summon, so I like this card quite a bit. Next up, we have another level 3 tuner with Rose Girl. Not only is it part of Akiza's newer line of support with the Rose archetype, but additionally it has a really cool effect where if a plant monster on the field is sent to the graveyard, except from being destroyed by battle, it allows you to special summon this card. And also it has a great graveyard effect where if you control a plant type monster, you're able to add it back to your hand, giving you access to a tuner very often. I like the way that it interacts with the deck, and I think it's a pretty fair monster to add to the strategy. Alright then, and last one up for the tuners, we have Copyplant, a level 1 monster monster that has a really cool effect where you're able to copy the level of another plant type monster on the field. However, this does make it a bit awkward to go ahead and make cards like Black Rose Dragon because it's a level 7. And if you use this effect to copy the level of another monster you control, best thing you can do is like make like a level 8 or a level 6 synchro, because of the fact that you can't make an odd number by copying the level of another monster. But because the deck does incorporate a lot of type changing, you could copy the level of a monster your opponent controls, making it somewhat easier to go ahead and Synchro Summon. So I quite like those interactions for the strategy. But of course, give me your thoughts on all the tuners that we gave Akiza. Okay, so moving away from the tuners onto the non-tuners of the strategy. And first up, we have Rose Tentacles, another card that Akiza utilized in the anime, and a monster that is really awesome for this deck that gives you an alternative playstyle besides Synchro Summoning. Because as you've noticed, one of the skills does allow you to change the type of your opponent's monsters. This card thrives whenever your opponent controls plant types. So I like that little interaction quite a bit. After that, we have another level 6 plant type monster with Gigaplant, another card that she utilized in a flashback in the anime, but nevertheless a card that she does own. This card is really powerful, but we do already have Ill Blood in speed duels right now, so I figured that the plant type alternative should be okay for speed duels as well. Overall, really powerful Gemini monster that gives you the ability to special summon a insect or plant type monster from your hand or graveyard. If you're able to bring this card out, you can have quite a bit of advantage, so really like this card for Akiza's strategy. Next up, we have the level 4s. First one up we have is Blue Rose Dragon. Not only is it a Rose Dragon monster, but it's also a card that Akiza utilized in the anime. This card is pretty cool because it has the effect whenever it gets destroyed, you're able to special summon a Black Rose Dragon or a plant type monster from the graveyard, which gives the deck a lot of resilience. This card is pretty great and one of my personal favorites. After that, we have Lord Poison, another monster that we already have in speed duels right now, and a card that she utilized in the anime that works similarly to Blue Rose Dragon, so this card is okay in the deck. Continuing on, we have another card from the anime with Violet Witch, giving you a monster that gives you the ability to search out for plant type cards in your deck. This card is pretty fantastic, and it's going to be crucial for you getting important pieces for your deck to go ahead and function. Last up for the level 4s, we have Botanical Lion, a card that she utilized later on in the anime, but I just felt this card fit way too well in the deck and gives the strategy a bit more of an aggressive feel to it, and it just feels so iconic to her as a character. Up next, we have the level 3s, starting off with Botanical Girl, which it works very similarly to that of Violet Witch, allowing you to add a plant type monster from your deck to your hand when it leaves the field. Only difference is that instead of being a monster with 1500 defense or less, it has to be a monster with 1000 defense or less. Nevertheless, really important to give your deck that level of grind and be able to get access to important cards. After that, we have Hedge Guard, a really good monster that Akiza utilized in the anime, and I believe she specifically used it in the Fortune Cup. This card is pretty fantastic. It gives you the ability to protect a monster you control by sending it to the graveyard. Not only that, but because it has 2100 defense points, it makes it a bit easier to utilize this card for Synchro Summons later on during the duel. Last up for the level 3s, we have Rose Fairy, another card that Akiza utilized throughout the anime and works really great with both Violet Witch and Botanical Girl, being able to special summon itself to the field whenever it's added to your hand. So this card is awesome for that. Last up for the monsters, we have the level 2 Dark Verger. This card's another great card that Akiza utilized throughout the anime that gives you the ability to try and perform some synchro plays, because it has the effect of that whenever a plant type tuner is normal summoned, you're able to go ahead and special summon this card from the graveyard. So this card doesn't have a lot of targets that are going to trigger it, but nevertheless it does give you some level of versatility for the strategy to work. Alright then, so now that we're done with all the monsters, let's move on to the spell cards. First one up here is Fragrance Storm, and this is another card that Akiza ended up utilizing in the anime. This plays really well into the whole aspect of changing monsters your opponent controls to plant types, for the very fact that this card allows you to destroy a plant type monster on the field, and if you do, you get to draw one card. Not only does this card work as consistency for the strategy, but it also works as removal as well, and I love that quite a bit. After that, we have another card that Akiza utilized in the anime with Magical Planter. This card allows it to send a continuous trap card from your field to the graveyard to draw 2 cards, and this card is going to be a great form of consistency for the strategy because we have quite a few continuous trap cards that we're going to be able to utilize with this card. We now move on to the equipped spells. First one up is the Mark of the Rose, another card that Akiza utilized in the anime, and this card's really interesting for the very fact that it allows you to go and take control of an opponent's monster as long as you banish a plant type monster from your graveyard, and this effect only takes place on your own turn. This card is pretty interesting and it's pretty strong, but I think it's probably one of the more balanced versions of one of these type of cards. but give me your thoughts on this. The other continuous spell card in this deck is Thorn of Malice, a Black Rose Dragon specific spell card. This card is incredible because it can be equipped onto a Black Rose Dragon or any plant type monster, giving it a 600 attack boost, which is pretty great, and also gives the monster piercing damage. This card is really strong specifically for Akiza because it allows you to out so many different monsters your opponent may have. Alright then, so last up for the spell cards we have Black Rose Garden. This probably is going to be my most controversial card that I have in her deck, for the very fact that it's a pretty strong continuous spell card. I did mention earlier in this video that I wasn't going to have Black Garden in her deck just for the very fact that it has the potential of creating some annoying loops, and I wasn't sure whether or not that'd be possible in SpeedDuels, but for the sake of cautiousness I chose not to add it in. Instead, I wanted to still have some card that represented that spell, so we have Black Rose Garden here instead. Essentially what this card does is on activation it adds you a Rose Dragon monster. In this scenario it's only going to be the Blue Rose Dragon, so I think that's okay for this strategy. The main issue that I have with this card in my opinion is the fact that it does have the added benefit effect where if this card gets destroyed by the effect of Black Rose Dragon, it does inflict 2400 points of damage to your opponent. However, because that is such a specific condition, I feel like it's okay, and because it's a continuous spell card, it means that it's quite easy to go ahead and interrupt that effect by chaining any form of like spell and trap card removal to this card. But give me your thoughts. Besides that, I really like this card. Alright then, and last up we have the trap cards, and as I mentioned we have quite a few continuous trap cards we're going to be talking about. First one up is Ivy Shackle, one of the cards that's going to be helping us transform all our opponent's monsters to plant types, and that's pretty much all this card really does. After that we have Overdoom Line, another card that Akiza utilized in the anime, and it's really interesting for the very fact that your deck does have quite a bit of few ways to recovering monsters from the graveyard, and giving your plant type monsters a 1000 attack boost is pretty strong, but I feel like it's balanced out by the fact that the condition to boost your monsters is quite specific, and at that it only lasts 2 turns. I feel like it's an okay trap card, and it fits in with the whole gimmick of Magical Planter. Finally, the last trap card we have in the deck is going to be Magical Thorn. I don't think Akiza ever utilized this card in the anime specifically, but it fits her really well, and also with the whole burn aesthetic that we have going on for her. This card essentially it activates whenever your opponent sends a card from their hand to the graveyard, and it burns it for 500 damage for a card sent to the grave. I feel like aesthetically it fits her really well as a character, and again it's another target for the Magical Planter. Alright then, so now let's go ahead and wrap up today's video with Akiza's extra deck, starting off with Splendid Rose, another card that Akiza ended up utilizing throughout the anime, and it's a really awesome card to get access to. This card is primarily just meant for the battle phase, giving you the ability to go ahead and have opponent's monsters, and giving this card also the ability to attack twice. But I feel like it's balanced out by the fact that for each of these effects, you do need to banish a plant type monster from the graveyard, and additionally the double attack only works if you cut this card's attack in half, making it a pretty balanced monster overall. And of course, you already knew this was going to be coming up, but Black Rose Dragon is the final monster in her deck, and yes, as we all know, this card is incredibly powerful, having the ability on summon to destroy everything on the field, including itself. Black Rose Dragon overall is one of the coolest looking signer cards alongside Stardust Dragon, and it's an incredibly powerful monster. But I feel like with the way I constructed Akiza's deck, it should be fairly balanced for what it is, and should be okay for SpeedDuels. Okay then, here's Akiza's deck profile listed right here, so you can get a visual look at how the deck looks all together. Of course, in the description below I'll have everything you need for you to go ahead and replicate this deck for yourself, that being the whole deck profile listed, itemized from monster to trap, extra deck, etc. All the skills typed out for you guys as well, so you can just copy and paste. And on my Twitter you can, or my Discord, you can go and check out to get the visuals as well. It's going to be all available for you guys if you want to go ahead and utilize any of it. But of course, in the comments below, give me all your thoughts regarding today's deck or any other deck I've made so far. I always appreciate reading you guys' suggestions, thoughts, comments, concerns, everything. With all that being said, guys, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. I do ask that if you did end up enjoying today's video and would like to support the channel, to please leave a like and subscribe. It goes a long way of helping the channel grow and giving us traction to get more people's eyes on this channel. But if you'd like to take your support a step further, then you can always become a channel member. For only 99 cents, you get a badge next to your name, custom Topsy emojis, and a shout out at the end of the videos. On that note, huge shout out to our current channel members, those being Pushx Start, Zedric, and finally Sekigano. Huge shout out to all of you guys, and thank you for the continued support on the channel. I can't express just how much I appreciate it from you all. Thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.